Good to go?
To go.
Okay. All right, we'll call this Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee to order at 9 a.m. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Could I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda, please? Lori moves, seconder. Fern seconds. Is there any questions regarding this agenda? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. Next is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of the committee have a pecuniary interest they wish to declare at this time? Not seeing any. Minutes of the previous meeting. Looking for a mover and seconder that the minutes of the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, June 24th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Do I have a mover for that, please? Fern and then Warden McNeil seconds. Any questions regarding those minutes? Not seeing any. We do not have any delegations, petitions, or presentations. Up next is committee member comments. Do we have any members of the committee that would like to make comments at this time? No hands? Moving right along. So we have reports of the accessibility coordinator. So Sahil, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So let's get started. I hope you had a chance to look at the reports that were submitted. So there are multiple projects in the pipeline. A couple of them are completed, a couple of them are ongoing. So first is the working group met a couple of weeks ago, and we did revise their term of reference. This committee should see the final draft in their November meeting. The next project is tourism and accessibility. So we're starting to gain momentum here because we're going to create an accessibility checklist for all the municipal buildings that have been submitted for the tourism initiative. This checklist will be completed by the education subcommittee. It'll go to the review subcommittee, and after that will come to this main subcommittee. So this is probably going to happen everything in, I would say, early 2025. Next project that's underway is the access sled, which we did speak about in our last meeting. So a grant proposal has been submitted. So hopefully we can get the grant for this program. Either way, this project is scheduled to start in March 2025. The review of multi-year and annual accessibility plans. So the directive and regulative subcommittee, we met last week, and then we went through our new plans. Again, once the final draft is ready, this committee will see that in November before it goes to the council. I also had a chance to review county's cultural services accessibility plans for museum and for libraries. So that was done in June, and then the relevant feedback was sent to them for them to take it further to their stakeholders. Last week, we did hold an Indigenous learning webinar. This was a county-wide, all partner municipalities were invited, so hopefully you had a chance to join. If not, there will be a recording that will be sent your way. Next is the Employee Resource Network. So this is something I did a month ago, wherein this dedicated channels have been established to talk about accessibility, to talk about inclusion within the county. So for county employees, County of Huron employees. And the idea is just to share best practices around accessibility and inclusion. Next is event accessibility guidelines. So I'll be working with the working group to develop this checklist wherein it will outline the best practices we can adopt when our municipalities are hosting outdoor or indoor events, so that we are looking at everything through like this accessibility lens. Next is the social media accessibility guidelines. So this was done in summer in partnership with the comms team, communications team, and their student intern. So we partnered and we developed this guidelines of whatever we're putting out in social media, it has to be accessible. The draft is not out yet, but it's underway. Accessibility awards. So we got a major revamp this year for accessibility awards. Firstly, the deadline has been extended to 30th of September to submit the nominations. This time the nominations are happening online. The links are posted on county's website and on our socials. We're also advertising it on the local radio stations. If you had a chance to listen to the radio, you might have heard it. The next is the Rick Hansen, which is the Rick Hansen Accessibility Certification, which is my own personal and professional education. So I am enrolled in the program. I should have a certification by end of this month. And same with the Canadian Certified Inclusion Professional. So I'm taking a test in October for this certification. And hopefully next time I see you, I'll be certified. And that is it for me. Thanks. Any questions?
Yeah. Any questions for her, Sahil? A lot of information there. So Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much to Sahil. And this is just a side note as to your report, and that is many are aware that the Clinton Raceway have demolished their grandstand and are rebuilding a new grandstand. And the #1 priority was accessibility. And Sahil, congratulations for all the work that you do and that the committee does, because it's very, very important, accessibility, and the Clinton Raceway are getting it. And I just wanted to add that to your report, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Warden McNeil. Julie has her hand up as well.
Ooh, now I have 2 questions. What am I doing here? Cancel that. I was trying to lower my hand. There we go. My first question, okay, now Warden McNeil, now I have a question just about the Clinton Raceway. Is that under our purview as a review committee? Like, I don't know if that's municipal land or property, because I'm just wondering who they're going to be passing their plans through to make sure that they are exceeding current standards.
Warden McNeil, you have a response to that?
Yes, I do. And thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks for the question, Julie. The person in charge of that is Ian Fleming. So he would be the contact for any questions on the plans of the build.
Okay.
So then it's not something that the committee will be able to do because it's not municipal land?
I don't know exactly whether it's municipal land or not. I do know, though, that the build is under the supervision and the purview of the raceway as opposed to the municipality.
Right, okay.
That's my understanding.
All right. Thank you for that. And what was my original question? You threw me off talking about the raceway. SLED. Sahil, if I may, the access SLED, is it going to go ahead even if the Enabling Accessibility Fund grant does not come through?
Yes.
And where does that money come from then?
So we have around 60 grant that was allocated to the potable washroom project. So this committee decided to rechannel that to Access SLED.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Lori has her hand up.
Good morning. Thank you. So my question is in regards to the awards. I'm wondering if it's possible to have a list of the awards that have been previously given. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, did we give that business an award yet or not? And there are several newer members on the committee, so that might be helpful if we could have that list. Yeah, help us move forward to get some nominations in.
Yeah, I will circulate that list probably this week. Yeah.
Thank you.
A question regarding that, I guess, Sahil, I have too, is how many nominations have we received to this date? Like, I see it's been extended. So are we extending it for the lack of nominations right now, or is it just being extended just to extend it?
It was just because we weren't getting the traction we wanted originally.
Okay.
So we have, I would say, 4 nominations in the merit category. And then I think we have 2 nominations in the Sandra Thompson Award category.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's one award handed out to each of those, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for that update. Julie has her hand up.
Can you tell us who those nominees are, just so that I don't go and nominate somebody that's already been nominated?
Yeah, I can send a list after this. Is that okay?
Yeah, or can you tell us now?
I gotta log into my system.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just send the list.
All right, that works. Any other questions? Not seeing any hands, so I do have a prepared motion here. That the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee receives the report from Sahil Kassal, Ideal Specialist and Accessibility Coordinator, dated September 23rd, 2024, titled Accessibility Coordinators Report as presented for information. Do I have a mover? Diane moves, seconded by Michelle. I'm assuming we're good for questions and we can move on to all in favor. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Up next is Sahil once again with the reports of the accessibility subcommittees, and the first one is the site and plan review subcommittee.
Yes, thank you. So we met twice since our last meeting here. So in June, we were invited by Town of Godrich to review the downtown infrastructure project, and everything that was discussed around the project. All the recommendations were sent, the reports were attached. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. In September, the committee was invited by Township of North Huron to review their municipal town hall and their children's center. For each of these facilities, again, recommendations were sent and they were attached to this report. And we were also invited by the Belgrave Community Center to review their playground. Our primary scope was the playground, but once we got there, we identified that there are more opportunities, especially with the bathroom, with the washroom facilities. So they were added to the recommendations. Yeah, that is it.
Okay. Any questions for Sahil regarding these reports? Lori.
Thank you. Sahil, your reports are very thorough. They're quite good. So thank you for that. It was brought to our attention while we were on that review that North Huron had requested that we review all of their facilities. Understanding that was too much for one day, but I believe we chose the most obvious ones to. Is there a plan to continue that review? I just find that if we have a municipality that is that engaged, I hate to say, yeah, no, we'll only do part of it. I understand it's a time and cost, but I still think we should, say, okay, we can't do it all now, but over the next year, we will review all of your facilities. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
No, I think that's great. We should be reviewing everything that North Huron has to offer. So they had originally reached out to review their children's center and their town hall, which we did. And then shortly after, they reached out to review their tennis court, that it's there. So we just have to finalize a date for that. So hopefully in November, December, or probably New Year's, we'll do that. But yes, we should have a cadence. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Not seeing any hands, so I will read the prepared motion that the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee receives the report from Sahil Kassal, IDEA Specialist and Accessibility Coordinator, dated September 23rd, 2024, titled Site and Plan Review Subcommittee, periodic report as presented for information. Do I have a mover, please? Someone want to move this? Thank you, Lori. Seconder by Julie. Any questions? Not seeing any hands. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so next item is the Huron County Accessibility Working Group Subcommittee. So, Sahil.
So the working group committee, we met just a couple of weeks ago, and the key themes we discussed was the TOR, the terms of reference, which will There were a couple of tweaks we made to the existing one, and once the final draft is ready, it will be sent to the HCAAC committee. The second thing we discussed was the working plan, sorry, not the working plan, the event accessibility checklist I was speaking about earlier. So the idea is to create a checklist, distribute it among all the municipalities, and whenever they're hosting an event, ideally this checklist will help them uphold the accessibility standards. I think that is about it in the report that we had discussed. If I'm not missing anything, Michelle or Michaela, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just so everybody's aware, I was elected the chair of the working group. So I just wanted to add a point to Sahil's comments, that we also noted that a lot of the events that take place in the municipalities may not be municipality run. So although there are current guidebooks that go out to the municipalities or to the festival or event organizers with checklists, we're also, I know Goderich is now including the Ontario guide until that checklist is prepared. And we can just draw attention to that, but we may not be able to have a 100% say in what they do or do not do. But we can certainly make it a checklist that these are the expected tasks that they undertake when creating and hosting their event.
Michaela, can you elaborate a little more just from the town of Goderich, what we've discussed with our tourist department?
Sure. So I know that we had a meeting immediately after the working group meeting with our tourism and community development manager. And we have an extensive checklist that goes through not only accessibility, but health and safety. So who's your first aiders, and emergency management as well. Like in the event of a tornado or a thunderstorm, what are your contingency plans? Included in that as well as an accessibility checklist or notes that these are the requirements that you have to undertake or that we draw your attention to. So we're going to be elaborating on that. We're also speaking with our local providers of washroom facilities. So to see if we can source or if they can source for us anything that may be more accessible. I understand, I received a comment and I'm not sure how accurate it was, and maybe somebody can let me know, that there was a step or a lip on one of the washrooms that I was unaware of. So we're going to see what we can be doing or if there's other products available, because of course, when we order an accessible washroom, we're limited, very limited, unfortunately, because of the market. And we're drawing attention to their fact that they need more products for us to choose from on what we are receiving. So we're doing our best with our providers to make sure that we have some options and better facilities in the future.
Thank you for that, Michaela. And I just want to comment how wonderful a job Michaela does do in her role. So it's greatly appreciated. She always has that accessible lens, and I do enjoy working with her as well. So yeah, is there any questions regarding any of that information, even some of the stuff that Michaela just mentioned? Julie, you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead.
So with in terms of events and accessibility at events, I'm not sure that all event organizers understand that accessibility, like under the AODA, volunteers are required to be trained about accessibility awareness. And I'm pretty sure that all of the events that happen around Huron County, that's not happening, that volunteers are not being trained on accessibility. And the same would go for organizations that are setting up at an event. They might not be volunteers for the event, but they're like representing their business or their organization or whatever. Under the AODA, they're all required to be trained. And I think that if that were happening, then misses that are happening at events wouldn't happen as much as they do. From an organization perspective, like if it's like the Salt Festival people, for example, doing the organizing, I'm sure them as staff have been trained, but are all the volunteers that are volunteering there for that event, have they been trained? Some of the things that I have noticed this summer, where events are being set up, what traditionally is accessible in the municipality becomes not accessible, where, you know, entire sidewalks are blocked off, accessible parking is blocked off, so there is no accessible parking. Washrooms have been an issue, although they are doing better at making sure that there are accessible porta potties, but those don't serve everybody. And what was one other thing? Lori, what was another thing about? Oh, bus tours. Having bus tours is fabulous, but there has to be accessible buses provided for those bus tours. So yeah, washrooms, offsite, maintaining the accessibility of the infrastructure as it is, not taking away from it. And Andy Orr does have an accessible washroom at the trailer factory. So we should really be leaning into him to provide those for events. That's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Is there any comments that, Michaela, you might like to follow up with the, you know, comments that Julie just made, please?
Yeah, no, I absolutely take your comments, Julie, and we'll with respect to the training for volunteers, we can certainly ask that they train their volunteers in the AODA and provide links for that online training through Access Forward for customer service, etc. Our problem is with volunteers, and you'll probably hear this, and it's no excuse, is that volunteers are hard to come by, period. And so we will ask them to absolutely be trained in it. We do, a lot of our volunteers are part of organizations where, like, every employer is required to, like, you know, train in AODA. So that's a link that we can have, you know, provide in request that the volunteers, or if they have a pool of volunteers, that they train yearly. Because hopefully that will help, and we'll make it known for all of our events that this is where you can find accessible washrooms.
I appreciate that, and I concur with Michaela. A lot of the events, you know, do struggle to find volunteers, and they're finding them last minute. So it's tough to get the volunteers trained if they're just signing up, you know, an hour before or the day of, right? So, but you know, the volunteers, there are a number of volunteers that volunteer at every event that we can count on to receive that training. So I think that's, you know, the key point. I think we can all realize that a last minute volunteer probably isn't going to receive the training, right? But it could be a conversation that a long-standing volunteer has with the new volunteer just coming to the event, right? As a verbal, so to speak. So Julie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is there's a lot of volunteers that volunteer for the Celtic Festival and for the Salt Festival and, like, you know, everything that's happening, or the Blythe Festival. So I'd like to suggest that the education subcommittee plan an event that is designed to train volunteers to volunteer at festivals and events. And like, you do it once a year, you get all, like, hey, everybody who's interested in volunteering this year in Huron County, come and get your training. And then, like, provide them with a certificate, and then they can show that to event organizers, and it becomes like a value added thing for our community members, because then, you know, the Blythe Festival will buy into that because they want their volunteers trained from an accessibility perspective. Like, all the organizations that are using volunteers throughout the season, and then everybody gets trained, everybody hears the same message. No offense to your suggestion, Michaela, but the Access Forward training is not awesome. I think the education subcommittee can do better than that. And I just want to put that out there as a suggestion.
No, and this is a good conversation, right? The thing I like about this conversation is people are providing solutions, right? To try to work with, right? It's just, you know, not, you know, complaints or concerns, right? You're also providing solutions as to what you think you can move forward. And I actually really think that's a great idea, Julie, what you just provided. is providing an event for people to be trained, right? So great solution. Diane has her hand up. You're on mute, Diane.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I would agree that's a great suggestion to offer annual training to volunteers. I think that's a great solution for historical volunteers. I wonder though about some events that people come on board at the last minute, and that is going to be a challenge to try and train them. I wonder, and so as a resident of Bayfield, my mind goes to the town hall that hosts events on a regular basis. And I'm wondering about, is there some sort of package or just even if it's an awareness package that may include some training components that can be sent to facilities that can then be handed out to various groups that would use the facility for whatever their programs are. So I'm thinking of starting with a, did you know that under AOTA, there's an expectation that you train all your volunteers? Because I would hazard a guess that most event organizers, especially smaller ones, have no awareness of their responsibilities around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another great suggestion. Lori has your hand up, and Michaela, you have your hand up as well? No?
I was just gonna say, you know, I would love to work. I love that training event, Julie, and I know that we've also got some interest in like a general first aid. So maybe we can kind of come up with a volunteer package with general information, working with our even the community paramedicine program. Like this is an ED and right, and make it a full event, and maybe we can tie it in with like our volunteer fair or something. But I love that idea if the education subcommittee wants to work with that. And again, the handout would be perfect, especially the day of, as a reminder. Here are, you know, make sure that pathways are accessible, move the link off the pathways, etc.
Okay, so I'll go to Lori and then Julie after Lori.
Thank you. Just a couple of things that have come up to me while we're discussing this, that there is an accessibility awareness week in May, and that's kind of prior to festival season. So that might be a good time of year for us to promote that we're doing, that we have a training session. And I also just want to mention that I think right now we have the best connection with the working group that we've had in a long time. So I really appreciate the fact that the working group is helping us with the work, because that's how the information gets from us to the lower tiers. And I really appreciate that that's happening, because in the past it's been kind of a hit and miss. So appreciate your work on that, Michaela.
For that, and Julie?
I was trying to figure out how to drop something in the chat, but I don't seem to be able to do that because it's a webinar. So I've just emailed Michaela and Sahil. And if you Google it, it's the Guide to Accessible Outdoor Events and Festivals, and it's produced by the province. So like that guide already exists, and it's a fabulous resource for how to actually do that, accessible outdoor events. And you know, I think that all organizations should be looking to that as a starting point. It's not the be all end all, but it's definitely a starting point. And just a follow-up question to both mayors that are present here. Is it possible for lower tiers to, when giving a special event permit to an organization, is it possible to add to that permit application process some sort of requirements of making sure that the event does not detract from the accessibility of the existing location? Is that a thing that can happen? Thou shalt.
Go ahead, Warden McNeil.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and for that. Absolutely, I think that's communication with the respective municipalities in Huron County. that when they are either granting or hosting an event, that the accessibility be part of the awareness of the importance of that. And absolutely, I would suggest that that can be done. Mayor Bazinet, would you concur with that? What would your thoughts?
I would concur. I guess the only thing that would, concern me is, like if something isn't being done. I think, Julie, is that what you're kind of getting at too? Is like, if we're creating this, requirement and they don't have, the proper accessible washroom, how are we enforcing that? Is that something that you're concerned with as well?
I'm not looking at it necessarily from an enforcement point of view, but
Yeah.
just these are the things that have to be considered in planning of the event.
Yeah, and I think like when Michaela touched on the checklist and Sahil as well, I think that's part of the requirement, right? Is that checklist is being provided, and they should be, going through that checklist and making sure that they have all that as part of their event, right? I think it's, what we need to do moving forward. And hey, the events that I go to, I see some things too, right? And it disappoints me, but I think it's a big education piece, and this is what we're here to do is, have those conversations, educate people, and then the next time they have the event, they'll put the things in place that they need to, right? For example, I was with Michelle at the long table dinner, and I don't want to say anything bad about the long table dinner, but their washrooms were not accessible, right? You had to walk up 3 steps, right?
I actually had to leave.
Yeah. So those are things that you have a conversation, you make the organizer aware of it. And then they're like, oh yeah, okay. So next year when we have this event, we need to have that accessible washroom, right? Warden McNeil had his hand up, and then I'll go to Julie. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Chair. And absolutely, I concur with that. On behalf of the organizers of that, I apologize. It was just an oversight, and I have drawn that to the attentions of the organizers, and that will be addressed.
Yeah.
Going
And
forward.
even for me being there, I had no idea until I had a conversation with Michelle, right? And then I looked over and went, yeah, it's true. So, and though, unfortunately, those things happen. Like Warren McNeil said, it's an oversight. It's not because the organizers don't want to provide accessibility. You get into planning a big event like that, and sometimes there are oversights, and it's still a wonderful event that raises a lot of money for our hospital, right? So greatly appreciated to that. But now, they know that when they have a washroom on site, that it needs to be an accessible washroom as well. So Julie.
That'll be addressed moving forward. Thank you.
So maybe that's a second event, is an actual education event for event organizers, not just for the volunteers. But if you are running an event in Huron County this year, here's a 1-hour workshop on the things that you need to watch out for. So add that to the education subcommittee list, Sahil.
Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding the working group subcommittee report that Sahil presented? Sorry, Lori. Yeah, I apologize. And then I think maybe I missed Maya. I think Maya had her hand up earlier. Did I miss you, Maya? Sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay. Okay. I apologize if you did.
Yeah.
Lori.
So as we're talking and thinking about how we work through this and how we avoid these situations as often as possible, I think a priority on that list is to not block off any existing accessibility. I think if that's one of the main steps on the list, then we know that it's going to be as good as the facility was to begin with, or the area was to begin with. Because that's I've been part of events. It's really hard to cover everything, but that's kind of that's one that should be fairly easy to make people aware of, is not to deter from the accessibility that exists. So I think through this conversation, we're coming to some really good solutions that we need more awareness. We need to highlight certain things. Bathrooms, of course, are the number one thing. People can't come if they can't use the washroom. So yeah, it's an awareness. We all know that accessibility is a work in progress, and that things will be missed. But if we can work towards making that list of misses smaller, then we're moving forward, and that's what's important.
Yeah, great comment, Lori. I really appreciate that comment, because I don't think things are being missed, you know, on purpose, right? And I think we all realize that it's all about collaborating together and communicating, right? And you know, that's what's happening, especially with this group. So any other questions or comments? Not
Maya.
seeing any, so I will read.
Maya.
Oh, Maya?
The moment but I don't remember what I was going to get. It's okay.
Okay. Well, if you do think of it before the meeting ends, Maya, by all means, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can always, you know, if you want to send an email to Sahil
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
any of us, by all means, okay? Okay. So the prepared motion is that Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee receives a report from Sahil Kassal, IDEA Specialist and Accessibility Coordinator, dated September 23rd, 2024, titled Report from the Huron County Accessibility Working Committee as presented for information. Do I have a mover for this? Maya moves and Michelle seconds. Okay. I'm assuming we're good with the questions and comments. There's a lot of good questions and comments as this portion of the agenda. So all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on. New business and our unfinished business. There is nothing there. Does anyone have any new business that they want to bring up? Lori.
This isn't, thank you, Chair. This isn't actually a new business, but I'm going to kind of umbrella it under unfinished business.
Okay.
So and Julie, I'm sorry if I'm stepping on your program here, but the past program, I'm wondering how it's being used. Are the lower tiers actually getting involved with the past program? Are we getting any feedback? Has it been helpful? Maybe we need to send out a reminder that all Huron County lower tiers are welcome to have that tool to work through. Just a reminder that it's available and can be a helpful tool.
Sahil, would you like to make any comments regarding that? And then I seen Michaela nodding her head as well, so I'll look to both of you.
Yeah, so when it was first launched, I did send the reminders to the County of Huron, and I think it was sent to the working group as well. But then just last week or a week before, we did send another reminder, and I think we did get some traction. I haven't received any comments, but I believe there is some traction. But again, once it's sent out to people I can send it to, they can further disseminate it to their stakeholders. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Michaela.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Sahil for sending out that reminder last week as well after, and we've certainly circulated in the town of Goderich to our directors and our individuals, managers that are involved with accessibility, and so it can be disseminated further down the chain. That's kind of how it works. And I've certainly used it. Logged in. I think it's great. I think you'll probably see more and more people using it. The summertime is a little bit busy, so you might see some more training going on over the fall and the winter months.
Okay. And while I have you here, Michaela, can you provide an update regarding the rental piece with the water wheels chair? And when I say rental, you're not paying to rent the water wheels chair, but I was just curious, how often was it used this year? I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus. It just came to me and I thought, why not provide the committee an update with how it's been, how how well it's been used at the waterfront in the town of Goderich.
Yeah, so it's been used well. It's been used about 2 to 3 times a week, which is great considering we either had blooming hot weather or it was raining. And it was kind of a slow start to the summer season in general with waterfront. We now have a shed that kind of delayed our start to the season as well, just for accessibility for the accessible water wheels. But we've had people coming as far away as Kitchener-Waterloo Community Living and individuals using the water wheels. And that's the floating wheelchair that was graciously donated by Julie. We also have a beach access chair, which although is not floating, it does provide access for sand mobility. So you could have a picnic on the beach. Instead of just relying on the Moby mats or the boardwalk. And unfortunately, that wasn't rented out at all or booked at all this year. But we're looking to do some more promotion with that. Some people had expressed interest, but weather, timing, etc., didn't work out. But it's definitely well used. We have received calls from Vernon, BC, I believe, BC, Prince Edward County, and 2 other municipalities across Ontario on how we do our booking process and what kind and where to locate water wheels for purchase. So our program's being replicated, which is also, I think is wonderful. So thanks, Julie, for sparking that initiative.
And you know, obviously, thank you again, Julie. It did receive national exposure as well. So, you know, well deserved, and it's a wonderful addition to the waterfront for everyone to enjoy. I see you do have your hand up, Julie.
I didn't even get to the beach to use it this summer. Just in regards to pass, sorry, I had to step away, but I did hear there's some conversation. Lori, I can tell you that just over 50 people from the county have logged into the pass program to do the training. And I know there's definitely more than 50 staff people in both, you know, the county and in lower tiers. And I wanted to make sure that all of the committee members had access to it as well. So Sahil, can you send a reminder to committee members how they can log into the program so that they can watch it as well? Yep, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, all right, thanks for the update. Anything else under new business or unfinished business? Not seeing any hands. Okay, so correspondence, there are no correspondence. Financial statements. Close to the public session, nothing there. Any items for the next agenda that anyone would like to bring forward to be added to the next agenda? If you don't have them now, you can always reach out to Sahil or Lubitsa to add those items, or Susan for that matter. Laura, you have your hand up.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. This has been my objective, and if Susan was here, she'd say, I'll try and beat Lori to this question, but every year I like to make sure that any funds that were not used at in the past in our budget are put in reserve for us, and that has to be a motion at the next meeting. So if that could just be on the agenda to make sure that happens.
Okay, I see. Sahil, you have your hand up.
Yes, it's nothing to do with this question, but like, so for the award of merit, we have 2 nominations. One is the Township of North Huron, the council chambers. And then the other one is also in North Huron. It's the Listowel, Wingham and Family Health Team. So there are 2. And then for the Sandra Thompson Award, actually, we just have 1, and that's Julie.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that update. Any other items for the next meeting that anyone wants to bring forward at this time? Not seeing any, and like I said, you can bring them forward at a later date. I'm sure they would prefer to receive them probably a couple weeks in advance of our next meeting to get them on the agenda for the appropriate timing. Next meeting, so the next meeting is going to be November 18th at 9 a.m., our regular scheduled time. hard to believe that we are September 23rd already. I already bought a couple Christmas presents as well. So there you go. I've got Christmas in my brain already. So just looking for a mover and a seconder that we adjourn, that Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting adjourn at 9:45 a.m. Do I have a mover to that?
Mayor, could I just have one comment in
course you
regards to
can.
the next meeting first?
Yes. Yep. you can.
So the next meeting will be when we will present the awards, and in the past that has been an in-person meeting in order to do that. So you know, because we don't meet between now and then, how are we going to lay that out? Sahil, I guess that probably falls on your plate, but just so that can be a thought process and we don't get to that week of the meeting and go, oh yeah, we were supposed to do this in person.
Okay, Sahil, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was assuming it's a virtual event. But now that I know it's an in-person possibility, I'll definitely come up with some logistics and I'll share it out.
Okay, we did during COVID, we did do them virtually. And I guess that's still a possibility, but I think we get a little more bang for the buck if we can have pictures taken and awards in person.
Last year, I actually visited and handed out the award myself to the restaurant in Wingham.
Yes, they didn't. They couldn't make it.
And then we had a photo done there. I was assuming that was going to be the structure again this year, and I see Lubitsa has her hand up, so she's probably got some very valuable information for us from Susan Cronin, maybe.
Well, yeah, from administration. The next meeting is going to be in person, definitely, and it will probably be at the Economic Development Office as we did last year, because that worked fine. If anything changes, but we will communicate this on time so everybody can arrange.
That'd be great. I like the idea of having as many committee members there to hand out the awards.
Yes.
You know, it's good exposure for all of the committee to be there to hand out these awards. So I do like that idea as well, that it's in person in front of, you know, the majority of the committee if they can so attend. So that would be fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem at all. It's good that you brought that forward for sure. So all we're gonna do is just change the time of adjournment, Lori, right? So instead of 9:45, it's gonna be 9:48. So what's an extra 3 minutes, right, Lori? No big deal, right? All right. So do I have a mover to adjourn? Julie and Diane seconds. All in favor? Fantastic meeting, everyone. Good conversation, good questions, good comments. You know, I enjoyed it as usual. So take care and enjoy the sunshine today. It's a beautiful Monday morning.
Thanks all.